Welcome back to the Human First CEO series on LinkedIn Live. I'm Nick Maida, CEO of Gainsight, and it's been a total pleasure for me over the last few months to be able to interview CEOs that I admire and that I learned from and hear about how they run their companies for the success for all stakeholders. We call this Human First because we think at the end of the day, businesses exist for the success of human beings. And so really excited to have Doug Song, former CEO of Duo Security, now general manager at Cisco, because Cisco bought Duo Security, here to talk about human first leadership. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you, Nick. Good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you too. And we've known a lot of people in common, run in very similar networks, and I just heard incredible things about how you think about leadership and how you try to make sure everyone wins along the way. But you're a human yourself, and we're getting hopefully close to the finish line of COVID. So, what is the first thing you're going to go do once everyone around you's been vaccinated?
Oh, I'm going to try to get everyone together if I can. I don't know where, maybe Michigan, but I'd like to get simply be in one place with as many friends and family as possible. Just trying to catch up on basically a year's worth of deferred memories.
Party at Doug's house is what I heard from that. So we'll all be there. I totally agree. I think we're going to be minimizing the social distance as little as possible. We're going to be in each other's faces just because we can do it, right? So lots of hugs. I had a dream last night of hugging, my parents, which is obviously very, very sentimental, being able to do those kinds of things again. So, but that'll be soon enough. For now, really excited to talk to you about how you've navigated your incredible company. You had a great, exit with partnering with Cisco and now running your team inside Cisco. And we like to break this up into kind of 3 core chapters. So what's the company's role in the community around you? What's the company's role in driving success for your team? And then what's your role in driving success for customers, which is kind of obviously close to my heart. So let's start with the community side. And I've been really impressed. Your company has started in Ann Arbor. It feels like you've really thought about that local community a lot. So talk about how you thought about that at Duo.
Well, to be frank with you, it hasn't really been sort of explicit agenda per se. It's just kind of, in many respects, how business is done here. Mm-hmm. I think here in the Midwest, we tend to be pretty good neighbors. We look out for each other, and through the success of businesses like Zingerman's, actually, Zoe and I were talking about U of M. We're both Michigan alum, go blue. But Zingerman's is a $70 million a year Jewish deli. That's sort of vertically integrated. They did everything from a candy manufactory to a bakery, creamery, coffee roasting business. As a community businesses in the community, and they do a really nice job, I think, of integrating a lot of those outcomes. Because they've always had a focus on staying local. That for them, place really mattered. They didn't want to go and spread, Zingerman's halfway across the world or what have you. They really wanted to do it here. And so I think some of that has been an influence on us for sure. We borrow certain rituals actually from Zingerman's in some of how we operate. For instance, a practice called appreciations, where we open or close every meeting with 3-5 minutes of thanking each other for the things that we've seen each other do that made the team successful.
That's every meeting at Duo?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. Well, it's a way that we model the behavior that we want to see, number one. But two, also as leaders, we'll do things like all hands meetings where we talk to the entire company about what we think is important. But in many respects, those kind of opportunities are ways that the broader team tells us what's important. And we, it's this, right? As CEOs, it's very hard to actually have a real finger on the pulse of your business,
totally,
your team. Totally. But when you have those kind of practices in your business, all the good sort of bubbles to the top, right? From the ways in which people call out and honor and recognize each other. And so this is all to say that this is stuff that is kind of a little bit of what business here sort of feel like, because there are a lot of generational businesses in Michigan that built an American middle class, right? From pizza to cars to furniture and you name it. And so people do tend to think a little bit longer view of what business is about and for, and what good it does right here in our own community.
I think that's so cool that you have that exposure. I live in the Bay Area in Palo Alto, and sort of by the nature of who's here, I mainly only interact with other tech people, which is very much in this bubble and don't get to see other businesses. So I saw that you're on the Detroit Regional Chamber Board. Is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of another way that you get exposure to the rest of the community and other businesses?
Yeah, more recently, I was able to join that board at the invitation of the former chair, Patty Poppy, who is the CEO of Consumers Energy, but she's now the CEO of PG&E. So,
Wow.
she's done an amazing job here in Michigan, and hopefully she'll do a great job for Northern and Central California. But yeah, I joined that board to help establish a kind of fourth pillar of the chamber around racial justice and economic equity, which I think is a really important focus for us in this stage of the state's evolution, and making sure that we do have a rising tide that lifts all boats, right?
That's incredible. So talk a little bit about that, how that sort of personally became a passion of yours, and also if that showed up at Duo in any way, or how you think about that in your company day to day.
Yeah, well, having a business headquartered in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is the crossroads of so many brilliant minds and talent, we tend to export brains rather than cars and all the other stuff. We export a lot of highly educated folks that come to Michigan just for school. And but you see quickly that the state has suffered a long history of segregation, unfortunately. Metro Detroit really does have a sort of weird dividing line at 275, which is sort of this highway that goes up and down. And anyway, and within the city itself, there's a long and very well-known history of, racial segregation and redlining and things that the city's worked very hard to recover from.
Yeah.
So it's very, very much felt here in many ways. Even Washtenaw County, where we are, between Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti, it's kind of like sort of like Berkeley and Oakland. It's actually the, I think, 8th most economically segregated county in America.
Wow.
Which is crazy. And so for us, it's part of being a good citizen, part of being a good neighbor, right? Living here, trying to make sure that we can all do our part to create a success much larger than ourselves. Because one thing that's really unique about this place is whenever anybody does anything good or is successful, everyone is out there rooting for them. That's awesome. Michigan's had it tough for a long time. And so, you have to pay that forward. And, for us, it's always been, a question of, are we doing the right thing for our customers, doing the right thing for our company and our colleagues? Are we doing the right thing for our community? And our business can't exist. It wouldn't exist without the support of, again, a strong community around us.
That's amazing. And it must have been pretty cool to create a multi-billion-dollar business in tech in the Detroit area, right? I'm sure it's one of the bigger software exits in the area, right? Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. We're not the only ones, and we since we not only became a unicorn, and then became a multi-corn. We in our exit to Cisco, there's been others. There's been Rivian, which is a company that's raised a ton of money doing some really amazing work, building electric trucks. StockX, which is this crazy ramp, right? I've never seen a company grow so fast.
Sneakers.
There's a lot more of it these days.
That's so cool to be part of that, and to be I can just feel from you the impact on the community. How does that show up in Duo's employees? Are they pretty engaged in the local community as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. A large part of our model for for what it means to be a kind of an organization operating within this community is we look at, for instance, service as opportunity, right? That there are many forms of leadership, and get good at what you practice. And so we do. Not only do we practice team building, right, through things like hack days, where people work on projects outside of their normal sphere of work with people they don't normally work with, but we also send them out into the community to do similar, right? To go and serve. And so a lot of the team building exercise that we do, a lot of onboarding, right, that we have. Ends up in one way or another involved in service, and it's a great way to exercise those kind of skills.
So you have service incorporated into the onboarding process?
So it depends on the team. Yeah. So some teams will actually go and do that. So when they'll go and bring on the team, they'll go and take a what we call volunteer time off, and we'll go do things like at food gatherers, right? What have you, which is actually a Singerman's affiliated nonprofit, but what we will almost always do is, we do these, what we call global data impact, where we set aside dedicated time for the entire team, the entire company, almost 1,000 people, to go and serve over the course of a day.
Yeah.
But those are things that build strong bonds between us and our our community at large, but also between the people in the business. And so there's a real benefit to us.
I love that. That's awesome. Are there, one thing we deal with, I'm sure, as CEOs is navigating what's the line of what the company does and what the company doesn't do. Obviously, there's always some line. Were there any lines that you had to navigate around where Duo took a stand or got involved and where that wasn't part of the company's mission? How did you think about that over the last couple of years?
Yeah. Whatever affects our team, any of our teams sort of affects us all. And so, for many years, we've not been shy about taking a stand on issues that surround us. And increasingly as a global business, we have many more of those concerns, right, to think about.
Yeah.
But so, for instance, most recently, we raised over $60,000 for Texas weather relief. With all that was going on, just
that's amazing.
Austin is actually our second largest office, but we've done a bunch of those kind of things. And actually, in the last year, not just through the pandemic around emergency relief, but also racial justice and equity and so forth, we actually raised about over $500,000 in donations for a bunch of that work. With Cisco. Cisco does a match and all that as well.
That's awesome. That's so great.
So, but we do believe it's really important. It's actually aligned not only to our mission, but Cisco. Cisco actually has a stated purpose as a company to power a more inclusive future for all, which is sort of an interesting mission as a networking company.
That's interesting. I didn't even know that was the phrasing. That's powerful. And that seems like a great place to be for your team. So, but the good segue, let's talk about the team. It's obvious that you're very purposeful company and you think a lot about your role in the community. Probably also you think a lot about the team. So what when you got kind of Duo started, what were the values of the company and how have those evolved over the years?
Yeah. So, as a security company, I think every security company has the same kind of purpose in life, right? Which is to protect others from harm. And so I always believe that to be sort of a noble mission in security, right? As defenders, as guardians, right? Of protectors of people's data and their livelihoods. But our specific mission was really it was not just that, but who we did that for and how, which is, we set out to democratize security by making it easy and effective for everybody. And we felt that there was a vastly underserved market in security that, weren't the banks, hospitals, governments that typically bought this stuff. Yeah. But a lot of mid-market and down-market companies as well. And ultimately our vision of what that looked like if we're successful, which I think you may be able to appreciate, was to be the most loved company in security. That was actually our vision.
That's a cool, it's a kind of dichotomy in some ways. I don't usually think of the word loved in security. So that's
exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
But most loved by our customers, certainly, but also by our partners and certainly by our employees. And so that was really the guiding vision of the business. None of it has really changed. That's more or less been consistent over the years. And just similar to our values, or our values were also, constructed is maybe a loose, maybe a bit generous. It's like Kierkegaard said, you sort of live your life forwards, but you can only make sense of it looking backwards.
Yeah,
but,
right.
We had these three values that we ended up evolving. One is to engineer the business, which is say that we expect failure. And so we need to normalize how we take risks safely and experimentally and so forth. But we need people to try. If we aren't failing at some level, we're not trying hard enough. To engineer the business, we have to learn together. And so we say we win or we learn. But at the end of the day, if someone discovers something, we need to sort of elevate, socialize, and standardize what that looks like, and make sure that our almost 1,000 horses pull the cart in the same direction, not different directions. And then our third value was to be kind of the necessary, right? To go out of way.
Oh, that's awesome! I love that.
Yeah, which is to say that it's not. People say stuff like, "Oh, say nice things about Detroit." Yeah, that's not what it's about. Actually, it's not about being nice. The way we've kind of explained is being kind is to go out of your way to help each other be successful. Like, for instance, pointing out the spinach in your teeth, or that your zipper's undone, or things that are sometimes uncomfortable.
I'm looking at my teeth right now. That's awesome. Those are really, really articulate. I like values that feel authentic and unique. Out of curiosity, because you mentioned Kierkegaard, I got to ask: are there philosophies or philosophers that have influenced how you think about the sort of philosophy of your organization?
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, there are. I don't really talk about this that much, but I like folks like Bertrand Russell and so forth. But actually, some of some of our corporate culture inspired similarly to Zingerman's, like some of the classical anarchists. So,
really?
Emma Goldman. Wow. So my background, if you know, before I did all this stuff commercially, I was as a hacker, security hacker, but also open source hacker. Open source is basically software communism, right? So,
right.
So I was sort of involved in bringing together a bunch of volunteers to go try to build stuff, or join teams, right, that were already doing this stuff, but none of us could be held accountable to it, right? We're all just volunteers, and so, but that definitely shaped and influenced my thinking and understanding of how you engage. Anyone on my team could leave at any time. Everyone who works at Duo is just a volunteer anyway.
Absolutely, yeah.
They have plenty of options, and so so a large part of how we've had to think about this and the kind of culture we wanted to have is one that it's not extractive. It's not coercive. It's like we're doing our best to create the kind of platform opportunity where people want to be, because they'll do their best and highest work and work to their best and highest purpose.
I love that statement of everyone is fundamentally a volunteer. I wish more CEOs thought that way. That resonates with me. And we can set up a separate session and geek out about philosophy and leadership. I'm very influenced by Kant and the categorical imperative and things like that. We'll talk about that another time. Sure. So, I can't do any session on the internet without talking about customer success. I think it's like in my contract. So I have to talk about that. So sure. Duo has also been a company that, you want your customers to love you. You want to be more than extra kind to them. And having worked with your team, I can tell you really do set a high bar in customer success. Talk about how that fit into the strategy of the company over the years, and maybe what you've learned as a CEO along the way about customer success.
Frankly, when we started the company, it was the only kind of prime directive we had. That at the end of the day, customers come to a company like ours for some sort of positive business outcome, right? That they're looking to reduce risk or achieve compliance or what have you. Or safely enable, ironically, but safely enable themselves to take other risks. Right? By having these compensating controls security, they allows them to go and do things like remote work and so forth. And so what's really important is that at the end of the day, we capture that. And my understanding of business was really from when I was a student at the university working to protect the university, but then doing security consulting on the side, and later kind of spinning out of business. So I've always had this sort of consultative sort of mindset, right? That there's always something a customer is actually trying to achieve.
Yes,
it's our job to really understand what that looks like. And so when I hired our first CS leader, so we started Duo in 2010. We hired Lisa Paul, my head of customer success, in 2014. She came over with a very non-traditional background. She came from global sales ops at Google. So she was used to large scale systems. She actually did IT management at GM. And I remember her telling me, so I don't really, have a formal background in CS. I don't know what that all is. And it's like, don't worry about that. We'll figure it out. And so her first week, we sent her to the Pulse conference.
Yeah.
That's awesome. She just, exited the matrix like, I know Kung Fu, And it was great. And we built a structured program around how we would achieve our customer success with intention and operationally, right? It would not be sort of just, we care about our customers, what have you, but that we actually understand our customers and that we actually build, again, the kind of deployment plans and models and so forth that ensure that they get what they paid for. And throughout, from the very first touch, sort of our ADRs have with a customer where they talk about that, like, what are you trying to achieve? What's the positive business outcome you're looking for? All the way through the sale, the close, all the way through, our CS, and of course things like our at the renewal, which for us is just typically a formality, right? We've done all the work, right, to make sure we've delivered the value before we talk to them about renewal. And again, much of that's automatic anyway. But that's carried and captured all the way through the course of our entire customer journey. I would say for us, customer success is sort of everything.
Well, I love one thing I'll pick out that is more unique than you might think is, I think, really operationalizing it, and actually Lisa's background being in an operational role. Like, there's a lot of CS teams and companies that have the platitude on the wall of customer success, but they don't have the day-to-day, what happens to make it a reality. So on that note, when you talk to other companies or you see your competitors out there, or you see other CEOs, what do you think CEOs get wrong about customer success?
I don't know. I have difficulty ever speaking about other people's companies.
Yeah, well, or maybe or maybe something you got wrong early on that you learned about, something that evolved in your thinking.
Sure. Maybe I think our original understanding, and I think this part is true, that there is a very clear financial imperative, right, to achieve renewals and so forth. But that's not what CS is about. It's not strictly about renewals. Actually, one way that I like to have a shorthand, right, for every function in our business, a way we can sort of describe kind of its mission or scope. And so, for instance, marketing uses to make sales easier. Yeah. Right. And product uses to make sure we deliver the right value, engineering to make sure we deliver that right. But CS for us, I think, as Lisa had said, was to ensure that our customers both realize and recognize, right, the value of what we deliver them, and ended up with a different shift of focus from things like just renewals. Because I knew that for business that say we were only doubling every year. I mean, most years we actually tripled, but we, half that new business every year might be from your existing customers, right? Yeah. So ultimately, like 70% of your revenue might be from, in the hands of CX, right? And so there is a sort of financial imperative to make sure that you sort of figure this out. But the one number I actually cared about most that became very meaningful for us was NPS. We ended up, kind of leveraging that and building backward from that an operating system, right, to deliver these positive business outcomes that we're seeking. And so I think a lot of people will approach CS and so forth from the perspective of sort of just renewals and revenue and so forth, but just like marketing, I feel like sometimes the best marketing is the stuff you don't really pay for.
Totally.
You develop sort of a whole body of karma, kind of build up all this karma one way or another with customers over time, and they do refer customers. They do buy more. They become those SaaS cohorts that compound, but not in a strictly mechanical way. And so anyway, that's where I think there's sort of the fun and the joy of building kind of the experiential design, right? Because just as much as you design a product, there's an experiential design you kind of think about around the customer journey and so forth. That is like Apple. Apple has it's like the Apple stores, like the Church of Apple.
Oh yeah,
right. They're like all white. The glass doors open, it's all white, and you got the high priest of the Genius Bar in the back. And, the damn box is like magnets, right? It's like magic. I mean, that is like an engineered experience, right? A highly engineered experience. Those are the kind of things that we can build, right? We can deliver to delight our customers. And so. Anyway, I don't know where it's going with all that.
I love it. I really think the outside in framing versus just the inside out, which is renewals and expansion. It's like, what's the customer trying to achieve? I think that's great. Getting us out on time. I'll close out with just a quick word association. So I'm going to say four terms, and you tell me the first thing that comes to mind. So 2020.
Oh God. I don't know. Office chair.
Okay, there you go. That's good. Duo. What do you want Duo's word association to be? What's the one word you?
I don't know if one word
or phrase is fine. I'll give you a couple.
Yeah, maybe legacy, or I'll say kind of necessary. My hope is that
I think that's the biggest thing I took away. Kind of necessary. It's so powerful. All right, customer success. If you had to kind of one or two words for what that means.
The point of business, really.
Point of business. Yeah, that's great. And then human first, this concept I'm talking about here.
I guess anything else is cancer.
Yeah.
Or Skynet.
Both. Yeah. I think that's awesome. Well, we will have to get together again soon for another hour of SaaS and philosophy, because I enjoyed both parts of this a lot. Doug, it's been great having you here. Thanks for everyone for watching. We'll see you again soon. Thanks so much, Doug. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.